Good day to all. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I have been asked by friends to say a few words about Frithjof Schuon at the beginning of this program that is being arranged for him. I'm very glad that such a program is being organized, and I hope that it will help to make his writings and thought better known. By way of introduction, I met Frithjof Schuon in 1957, and I visited him every year, sometimes twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, even when I was living in Iran, until 43 years later, until his death. And I performed the prayer of the death, Salatul Janazah, for him. So I've known him quite well, and I've read all of his writings, perhaps a few letters in German I have not read, but even most of his French and German letters. And I had hundreds of hours of private discourse with him about various matters. He was certainly a person of exceptional both spiritual and intellectual depth and ability, remarkable vision of the essence of things, and also an eye for authentic art and beauty, and was in every way an exceptional person, one of the deepest critics of the errors of the modern world, and one of the most profound expositors of the eternal truths, which form the heart of what is called the Perennial Philosophy, or what he used to like to call Sophia Perennis. Some people have wondered why his writings are better known in academia. Actually, it's not as bad as one would think in the United States. It's in France, because he wrote in French primarily. His first book was in German, but afterwards he wrote in French all his life, until the end of his life when he wrote some poems in German again. In France, because of the academic opposition to Guénon, there was also opposition to him, to such an extent that when Henri Corbin, the famous French scholar, quoted in a footnote the criticism of Frithjof Schuon against Teilhard de Chardin, Corbin in Tehran told me, he said, just because of this footnote, I've been nominated for the Académie des Belles-Lettres in France. I'm not going to be elected. And that's exactly what happened. To this extent, there was opposition to people who were not, people who were associated with the writings of Guénon, especially with Schuon, was very close intellectually to Guénon. But in America, things were not so severe. There are some universities in which his books are taught, especially his book on Islam and his book, The Transcendent Unity of Religions. And I know some professors in various universities, Catholic University, La Notre Dame, other universities, who in fact teach his works. Nevertheless, he should be much more known. There's no doubt about that. One of the reasons, of course, is not that well known, is that his works are not easy. They were not meant to be popular for everyone. They require both intellectual intuition and knowledge and discernment and an acute intellectual rational faculty. And also, since it speaks against the errors of the modern world, which many people consider to be their own, oftentimes, of course, people are so kind of put off by it. Nevertheless, I think there's definitely a spread of his writings ever since his death. spread of his writings is in the 21st century in this country, and even before that, and that continues unabated. As I said, I had encountered Schuon hundreds of times, mostly in Lausanne and Bloomington, but also even in Kushadasi and in Turkey and in England and some other places. And I have so many stories to tell, but one of the most profound events that took place with him was when he went to Turkey to visit the House of the Virgin, Mariamana, which is in a little village in western Turkey called Kushadasi. I'd gone to Lausanne to meet him when I discovered it was in Turkey. I took a plane and came to Turkey and went to his hotel, and we met there. And he asked me, he said, I've come here to visit the House of the Virgin that had the supreme vision of the Virgin, or the branch of his tariqah came to be known as the Maremia, had a special love for spirituality of the Virgin. And he invited me to go with him. And we went together. And there were two rooms, one visited by Muslims, one visited by Christians, Catholics usually, from Europe who would come to visit him. And we went to the Islamic room, and we spent a good deal of time there praying and invoking. And it was really a electrifying spiritual experience, which I shall never forget. I'm very glad that after over 20 years since his death, now Michael Fitzgerald and others have started these Schuon Lectures in Indiana. I wish them very well, and I'm very glad that they have been started. There are a number of very good scholars now, include a number of my students who are now professors, who know the writings of Schuon well, and different universities and others who could deliver them annually, and I hope they will be published and will be a big step in making the very precious writings of Frithjof Schuon better known in a world that needs his message more than ever before. I thank God that he has given the stamina and the vision to you people who are involved in this project, and I pray that you will be successful in carrying it out, and the Schuon Lectures will become well-known lectures for all those interested in metaphysics and spirituality, and also the deepest criticisms of the errors which constitute the modern world. Thank you.